Greetings, friends. I'm pretty sure I'm in the image because the whole couch should be in the image here, and I'm with my friend Paul again. And there's different subjects that maybe we can tie together today. Paul gave me a book to read about ice ages, and we thought we might talk about that. But then you were also mentioning the subject of Atlantis and references to Atlantis, which sounds pretty interesting. I don't know much about. I mean, I know the general information about Atlantis, and then also we might touch upon this drawing. It's not really a painting by the famous
woodcut.
It's a woodcut, yeah,
woodcut
by Albrecht. How do you pronounce his name? Albrecht
Dürer.
Dürer, yeah. He was Dutch and
German.
He was German. Oh, okay. He was writing, or he was living in the 1500s around there, or
1400s.
Right, late 1400s.
You
Yeah.
have Dante 1300, him about 1400.
Oh, okay.
And Galileo.
Right.
After 1600. Okay.
Right.
So you got to get your centuries.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I'm not sure how this is going to go, but there's all these interesting subjects here. So why don't we start with some general overview of Atlantis. We may have all heard of Atlantis, but
yeah, you've heard.
Would you say it's a mythical thing, or is there more of a real basis to Atlantis? Like, was it a real civilization in your opinion?
What is it? Plato wrote it about 400 BC.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Okay. You start with. He's a mathematician, by the way.
Oh, okay. He was a mathematician too, Plato.
Yeah. Okay,
wow.
So he wrote it 400 BC, and it seems to be fantasy, weird stuff, but it has this number.
Right.
He says it happened 9,000 years ago.
Right.
And then
he said in the time of Solon or something, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
I don't know.
He's referring to a period 1,000 years ago, where the story comes from. So it's 1,000 years. And then another 9,000 years before that. So then, why would he, for him, he's referring to something 10,000 years back, and how would you keep track of something like that?
Yeah, it gets a little confusing. So he's writing in 400 BC, which is like about 2,400 years ago.
I think that's, 2,400.
But he's saying, I got this story from some source which is about 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
But that source is saying that the actual Atlantis would have been even further back, another
9K, yeah.
Before present, 9,000 years before present. Right. Okay, that's interesting. That's an interesting time period.
So you have trouble remembering what happened last week. So how are they supposed?
Yeah.
For him, how does he know something 10,000 years ago?
Right.
So it would be just totally ridiculous, except something did happen. A comet crashed into Earth, and the debris went from Greenland to South Africa.
Right.
Caused an ice age of 1,300 years.
Interesting. So that's one thing I want to get to. We'll get to this comet thing and its connection to Atlantis, and I just say for the audience, I don't know what to believe. I'm a skeptic of certain things to do with evolution and date, but it doesn't matter because I want to hear what Paul has to say about this.
Well, this has nothing to do with the monkeys climbing in the trees.
Right, of course.
It's recent history. It's just ordinary history, but you're going back a few more thousand years.
So, but before we move on to that, are there any other historical references to Atlantis, or was it just Plato?
It's just Plato, and then every science fiction thing that comes out year after year. Okay.
There must have been some mythical, basis in other cultures, I think, but they all conflict.
Every culture, it's circles and that time period, asteroids.
Right. Okay. So what? But the actual reference with Plato, what book was that in? Do you remember? I don't know what it was called.
Okay, there's two things called Timaeus and
Timaeus,
Critias. Timaeus and Critias. I don't know all the Latin stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Did you study Latin? I don't
know.
No.
Okay. I've studied not Latin, Spanish, but
probably most of it is lost.
Right.
So
That's
the ancient writers might have seen it, but
yeah.
we were missing most of it. For example, Dante, he probably had the whole thing and put it under his mattress and it was lost.
Yeah, so there's very limited references to Atlantis.
10 pages at the most.
I don't think Plato wrote very much in the Timaeus about. I mean, I haven't read it, but like, what did he basically? What did he say? What did these ancient writers say about Atlantis?
Okay, well, there's only one writer that's talking about Atlantis. That's Plato.
Just Plato, yeah. That's
and
the
then
only
of
one.
course he gets it from
Right.
these guys, and they passed it down for 10,000 years for some
Right.
reason. So there's just
How do they describe this civilization?
It's an island surrounded by a sea, surrounded by a land, a bunch of circles.
Concentric circles
Yeah,
with
yeah.
water in between them.
Yeah.
And it's out in the ocean somewhere.
Atlantic Ocean.
Okay, right.
And then the people of Egypt, 1,000 years before Plato, and probably on Crete, where they kept a record of it for some
Interesting.
reason.
So I know that there's been all sorts of controversy as to where Atlantis was, but in your view, it was somewhere in the Atlantic. I've heard Bahamas or just somewhere where the Azores are.
My
out in the
point of
mid-Atlantic.
view is a bit different. It's over the Atlantic, up in the air.
Really, well, that would be something beyond our comprehension.
No.
What do you mean up in the air? Like
Well, do you know what planet number 6 is?
No, what's that?
That would be Saturn.
Oh, right. Okay.
What does Saturn have?
It has rings, concentric rings around it. Yeah.
And what would cause those concentric rings?
I don't know what to believe, but the general
Well, it does
scientific,
have
they would
rings.
say the gravity of Saturn, and it's rotating and it's collecting all the loose material around, which gets naturally or it's around the equator of Saturn.
It's around the plane of
Yeah.
all the planets. That's why it's.
Right, it's like an asteroid belt that
So
is
it
held
has
there by
to come
Saturn's.
somewhere, and a gigantic object smashes into Saturn. It's ripped apart. It spins, and it makes the rings, and
Right.
then they fall in after hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of years.
So some object hit Saturn and was destroyed?
No, yeah, it's ripped apart because of it's a huge planet, and it gets ripped apart. It spins in, and rather than going straight in and making a big hole.
Is this like the Nibiru thing that people talk about?
I don't know what Nibiru is.
Nibiru is like Planet 9 or something. I don't know if I believe in that because people have told me, oh, it's not real, but I don't know.
No, this is just straight physics.
But what's the connection of some object being destroyed by Saturn and Atlantis?
Because the Earth had rings around it after the asteroid
interesting.
impact.
Oh, okay, interesting.
So that's why you get all these circles and rings culture right up to the Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I see. That's why they would build Atlantis perhaps in a series of rings.
It would be over the
Okay.
Atlantic Ocean. There would be rings over the Atlantic Ocean because
You
of
mean in the sky?
in the sky.
Oh, okay, but we're not saying Atlantis was floating above it was still a three-dimensional regular.
It would be
series
floating
of-
about 500 miles up, but it would
Well,
be
the
those
rings in the sky would be 500 miles up.
Yeah,
But
so-
Atlantis itself was on the surface of the Earth.
Atlantis was some fictional thing. They just rings. They see the rings in the sky and they call it Atlantis or something, and the story gets morphed around because you're not going to have the same story after 10,000 years.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, it's a little unclear, but that's okay.
It
So
should be.
yeah.
The rings of Saturn are
Yeah.
made by something just catching on it and spinning around and throwing stuff out.
Interesting.
Because the debris field of this asteroid, it goes from South Africa to Greenland. It's not just one big hit.
Okay, so that's what you mentioned earlier. So we should get to that now. So there's you said there was a comet or an asteroid that hit the Earth.
Yeah, 3 kilometers wide.
Okay.
So that's there's an article published in Scientific American, and there's more
Okay.
recent articles, and they've gone and picked out all these asteroid fields. So it just would have been like raining hellfire down
Yeah.
for a while.
And so they say a 3-kilometer asteroid, because asteroids are different from comets, right?
Okay, this probably would be a comet.
Okay. But it actually, and when was it said to have hit Earth?
12,800 years before the present, or
Okay.
10,800 BC.
Right. Okay. Okay. And what part of the Earth do they think it hit?
Well, the biggest chunk hit Greenland,
Okay.
a 1 kilometer
Interesting.
piece, and then all bits and pieces, they're all over the Atlantic side of the hemisphere.
Okay. Interesting. And I know sometimes when comets hit Earth, they don't actually hit; they disintegrate before they, because the atmosphere burns them up.
Yeah,
But this would have been big enough that it would have actually hit the surface of the Earth.
Yeah. You just get a complete shower of particles, and
Right.
the uppers, there'll be so much, and then it'll just be a fuzzball around, but there's a gravitational plane along the planets, and it'll end up so that you'll have rings around the Earth for a while, maybe for 1,000 years.
Really? Wow, that's interesting.
And then that would deflect the sunlight, and it would. That's how it would be cold for 1,300 years, because there was another volcanic eruption. What did I say that was?
Yeah, you have a little timeline here.
Year without a summer, 1816.
Yeah, 1814, 1816, year without a summer.
Yeah, Mary Shelley writes Frankenstein. And,
Right.
Okay, so that was a gigantic volcano, but it cooled the planet down for 2 years or so.
Right.
So for this to happen for 1,300 years, I think a ring around the planet is the only thing that would account for this.
Right.
It would cast a shadow and cool things down.
What evidence do scientists point to of this comet's impact?
A big hole in the north part of Greenland. They call it the Hiawatha Crater.
Hiawatha, okay.
And then they can get a date, because each layer of ice is laid down, that they can go year by year, and they got the exact date.
They take ice cores.
Yeah, ice core. And
Okay.
and it's and there may be some radiocarbon dating, which you're not too happy, but the ice.
No, it's not that. I just don't know. I know that the evolutionists, they like to use radiocarbon dating and these things to get all these wacky dates that go back and back and back.
If you have a
There
piece
can be
of
problems with it, though.
yeah, if you
Yeah.
have a piece of wood, and you know the tree ring samples,
Yeah.
then you can You always have to be able to calibrate it with something.
Yeah.
You're saying they can't calibrate it, and maybe you're right. Okay, they start making up stuff like that.
Yeah, I don't know.
like
it
we're
could
doing,
it
but
could
anyway.
it could be true. I don't. I mean, I think organic material is probably a better bet.
Yeah.
But dating
that's where they
dating inorganic material is where they can get all these wacky dates, make the Earth look very old when they don't really know. But I don't know one way or the other.
Anyway, we're only we're only at 10,000 years for that. Okay.
We're only at 10,000 years since the impact.
We're not talking about the dinosaurs and the cockroaches.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're not talking about that. Yeah, we're not talking
Not even
about
close.
all that. I don't know if the Earth is actually as old as they say it is.
Whatever. Okay.
But we don't really know one way or the other.
Not-
So the idea here is that this civilization of Atlantis may have ended because of a change in climate
Yeah.
to the planet.
Okay, but what I'm saying, there really wasn't such a thing. It's something they see in the sky, and they made up the mythology, and it's been with us ever since.
So,
yeah.
So then, do you not believe that Atlantis was a real civilization? You think it's more of just a mythological thing based on rings in the sky from a comet?
A civilized, yeah, I believe that, but a civilization, it has to have a clock, cosmic clock, the sun.
Yeah.
Okay, to get everything lined up, you have a civilization.
Right.
So there would be civilizations starting around 15 to 17,000 years ago because they were able to keep track of the time.
Okay, okay. How did they keep track of the time back then?
Well, summer solstice, you start with
Right,
that. Okay.
right.
But where the sun rises and set on the horizon. Okay. Solstice means it's highest in the sky, right?
Right.
Okay. You can do that, but you have to have solar time. That means 12 o'clock in Toronto, the shadows point directly toward the North Pole. It's not the same as Ottawa.
Okay, right.
So you have to get out your cell phone, get
Right.
solar time for Toronto, and it's going up to 12 o'clock, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 12 o'clock. You measure the shadow, and then you can maybe calculate the zenith of the sun.
Right.
Okay, but they do it by horizon, so like Stonehenge,
Right.
right? It comes through a little window, and that's your summer solstice on the horizon. Okay,
Right.
that's the only way you can measure it if you're the caveman. But also, you can do that for the moon,
Right.
and it's 18 years.
Right.
Then so you can have your dynasties and control the whole territory of Europe. Like
You're mentioning a lunar cycle of 18 years?
yeah, that's the eclipse cycle, but you don't really have to predict the eclipses. You just follow the moon on the horizon the same as you do the sun.
Okay.
Okay, so
What would come full circle in 18 years exactly? What would be changing on the
well,
moon?
you just have a reference point, and like for the sun, it's the farthest point north.
Right. Yeah.
It could be that for the moon, or to just to be all sorts of points, but they'll pick one to be aligned with a mountain or a tree, and then
Right. Right.
it'll be 18, and then they can set up their time, their cycle, and maybe they do a route, they go hunting, like you want to eat, you have to move. Okay.
Right. Okay.
It's nomadic, so that there would be some civilizations, but we wouldn't recognize them as before. But for Atlantis, like civilization, we consider it to be they got thousands of slaves moving all these blocks of stones, building pyramids.
Right.
Okay, there just wasn't anything like that 10,000 years ago. There's nothing. Okay, there might be some little thing, but there's not a pyramid before.
Right.
I think before 5,000 years ago.
Fair enough. So you think that there weren't any of these really advanced civilizations?
Well, if you
past?
think slavery is an advanced civilization,
Right, yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm not buying into that.
I mean,
right
like,
now.
they couldn't build something like the pyramids 50,000 years ago? That's
No.
too difficult for us to say. I don't know.
Well, it would be there.
Yeah.
Right. There's no reason why, but like the New World pyramids, they're only 1,000 years old.
They're not as old as the ones in Egypt.
No.
I know the
They're after
conventional
BC.
the conventional dating is like of the Egyptian pyramids is like 2,500 years old or something around there. But then
Yeah.
other people like Graham Hancock, they question that. And they say that they could be considerably older.
They could be older, but I don't see how you get past 10,000 years.
Yeah, fair enough. I know that they dated the Sphinx to about 7,500 years old.
It
That was
could be.
Robert Schoch because of the rainwater erosion, which he said could have only been produced by a climate that was wetter than the current Egypt. Because all the rain hitting the Sphinx producing little creases of the water pouring off of it. Because it's carved out of the bedrock.
Okay.
That was Robert Schoch, the geologist.
You have to have an abrasive and the
Yeah.
sand blowing against
Yeah.
okay, the rain is, unless it has sandpaper in it, it shouldn't. It might dissolve it, but
Yeah.
but that's sandstone, and it's only limestone that gets dissolved by the rain. So it could be older, but it's it doesn't have. You're not.
So, I wanted to ask you about the Younger Dryas and the connection to Is that connected to this comet, which they say happened, hit 12,800 years ago?
Yeah, it's the only possibility. There was another theory that the Laurentian ice fields collapsed, water went down the St. Lawrence River, and it cooled off the Atlantic. But that's not going to work for 1,300 years.
Right, okay. No, not for 1,300 years.
There's fresh water going into the
But
Atlantic.
the ice sheets where this would have been what today, where northern Quebec is, or just all of Canada?
Well, just so that the St. Lawrence River could open up and flood the Atlantic.
The melting of that would have also supposedly been caused by this comet?
You could
Yeah.
add them both, but I think it's mostly the comet, and my idea is that there were rings around the Earth.
Right, okay.
And they're always talking about rings ever
So
since.
you said it would cause a 1,300-year cooler,
Colder period.
and that's the Younger Dryas?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
because it's an Arctic plant. I think it looks like a buttercup or something, and it's just a little...
Who came up? Is some scientist
Well,
came up with the name Younger Dryas, or where's that name
Well,
come
Dryas,
from? Yeah.
It's a Dryas arctopedius or something plant. It's a plant with 8 petals.
Oh, it's a plant. Sorry, I'm just checking this.
Yeah,
It's a plant, eh?
yeah.
Like
And it only grows in the Arctic. It'll be there right now.
Okay.
It'll be on the Arctic Circle.
So that plant became more prominent during this cooler period.
Yeah, they just look at the dirt's core, the dirt.
Okay. Interesting.
And they go, and it goes for 1,300 years. There's no trees, there's no banana plants or whatever.
And they have real evidence for this in soil samples that you were saying.
Yes, it's just standard science. Younger Dryas.
Yeah.
Okay, the plant they call it. There's a slightly older Dryas, maybe 200 years. So,
Interesting.
okay, so the Younger Dryas is just recent, and it's 1,300 years, which is a long time for things to cool down for no apparent reason.
Right.
Except for
I mean, I believe there was an ice age that was coming to an end. Well, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's you know, that's what I believe for now, unless someone convinces me otherwise. But
yeah.
I mean, we'll get more into ice ages maybe in the next interview we do. But but yeah, definitely the timing is conspicuous because that's around the time that they say the most recent ice age was ending about 11,400 years ago.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
It was coming to
Yeah.
an end 18,000 years ago. It was melting away, and then it stopped. It froze over again for 1,300 years ago.
Right.
And then finished melting.
Right.
It just put the brakes on. Okay.
And some scientists would say that we are we are between ice ages, like we're in an ice age period.
Yeah.
But that the world is probably going to move back into another ice age.
Yeah.
So much for global warming. I wish the world was warming, but it's probably getting colder. But that's another.
There'll be very little change for the next few thousand years, except for these volcanoes and these comets, which we're not prepared for. We're just making these hysterical pronouncements about global warming and all that.
Yeah. Maybe we should go over this timeline that you prepared for me.
Okay.
Just to see how it relates. You have Lascaux Cave in the south of France.
Lascaux? Okay,
Lascaux?
Yeah.
You have here 15,000 to 17,000 before the Common Era. So that would be about 17 to 19,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And there's this image of the Saros symbol with 18 prongs on the red deer.
There's a red deer. They still have those animals.
Right.
And it's got 18 prongs, and it would refer to the lunar eclipse cycle, or you have 18-year period of the moon, and you can judge the time by that. And those are fantastic paintings, but they all deal with astronomy, but they only talk about it in French, and it's the same.
Right. Yeah, there were 18 prongs, and then there were, what, 12 or 13 dots?
Dots underneath, there's probably other, but see, they had dots all over the place, and a dot could have referred to a period of 18 years.
Right.
So if there's 111 dots, it'd be 1998 years. It would be the same as our present civilization.
But if they had I thought if they're not advanced back then, how could they be measuring all this lunar eclipse cycle?
They're just measuring the time.
Oh, okay.
Like they would know what summer or solstice.
I would say that the dots, it's kind of like, I mean, I guess they didn't have the best precision, but that's their art at the time, but they had dot, 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 and then there was kind of like a space and then another dot. So I'm wondering, is it actually 12 or 13 dots, or I mean, it could mean something else, or maybe they just made a mistake.
I think it's an astronomical symbol.
Yeah, fair enough.
But there's a box.
I'm a little skeptical, but but it could be.
Yeah. As soon as you have some way of keeping track of the time, you can have a civilization. You can have control of the whole place, because and then nobody can get into your territory because you've assigned it to your sons and daughters and
right
to generations, because they had this so-called Iceman. He was an outsider. He went into it and they shot him in the back with an arrow.
Oh, I've heard of that, yeah.
So that's how it turned out.
He was dug out of the ice.
Yeah.
How old did they say he was?
I think it was maybe 7,000 years ago.
Wow, that's really old.
You just didn't go into somebody's territory. It was
more.
They would be more territorial than a wild animal.
Yeah. Wow. And then we moved to Stonehenge.
Yeah.
Which we have here as about 3,000 to 1,500 before the Common Era. Or I'll just say BC. That's the old way to say it. And then you have here station stones are aligned with the lunar eclipse cycle.
Yeah.
So they're also measuring the lunar eclipse cycle for their calendar.
Yeah. And they have a pretty... See, you would call that a civilization because they're moving blocks of stones, and they might have even done it without slaves.
Right. Yeah, we don't... I mean, it could be. Although we just don't really know much about who built Stonehenge.
No.
We don't really know who did it. I mean, it could have even been, if you believe that there were giants, and the Bible talks about, like, sometimes I wonder if the giants may have built some of these megalithic structures.
Well, they would have been in good shape anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the Bible talks about these giants, and it doesn't say how big they were, but
well, Neanderthals were about
big, though.
They were about 500 pounds.
Right.
So that goes back to the first point, because they had to compete with Neanderthals. So if you got a clock, you can have a schedule and you go raid their stuff and get out of there. And when the summer solstice is, the exact dates when things are going to happen. Okay, so it would be. Okay.
And then Minoan Civilization. Minoan, is that like Greece or
that's early Greece. It's on the island of Crete.
3,000 to 1,500 BC, the same as Stonehenge.
Yeah, they all seem to pop up at the same time.
And then you have written here, as above, 10,800 minus 9,000 equals 1,800. 1,800
okay, yeah.
What's that significance there?
Okay, 500 times 18 is 9,000 years.
Right.
So if you go 9,000 years from that time, it's exactly when the comet struck.
Oh, okay.
So if they were keeping track of it, 500 cycles, and then maybe that's how Plato got that information. Saying it was 9,000 to 8,000 years ago. We say 1,300, but he says it's 1,000 years. It might depend on where you are. In the south, it might not be so.
This is kind of going over my head. That's all right.
Okay. No, the calculation, if you have a lunar cycle 18 years,
right,
and there's 500 of them,
Right.
That makes 9,000 years.
Okay.
So that's Plato got the information from those guys or from Egypt.
And the significance of the 9,000 years is that Minoan Civilization rose about 9,000 years after.
The comet struck.
Oh, okay, I see.
They may have
Similar to Stonehenge.
Okay, but they may have
Yeah.
been keeping track of it all the time.
Right. Okay.
And then that was their last record of it.
Okay, but did they build something or leave something as a marker of that?
Nobody knows. You're
Minoans?
going to have to do your archaeology.
Right, yeah.
And look at the Knossos Palace, if that's how you pronounce
Oh, okay, right.
They might have a
Yeah.
box
Yeah,
with 500 dots,
right.
and then that would refer to the rings in the sky
Okay.
9,000 years ago from their
Right.
time.
And then we move to the Old Testament, Genesis, chapter 5, verse 32. And together with that, you have Egypt, the Nile Delta settlement of 1800 BC. The Old Testament, Genesis, about 1450 to 1500 BC. When Noah was 500 years old.
So that Noah might
Yeah.
refer to a settlement, and again, 500 times 18 would give you the time of the rings in the sky.
Right.
The comet impact.
Wait, you said Noah refers to a settlement or a...
It's supposed to be a person, but
Yeah.
like the print at the bottom says the numbers don't mean anything, but why would they put the numbers there?
What print is
Well, in my Bible, it says the Catholic Bible says the numbers are just literary or something like that. But well, if they're literary, it would mean 500 times 18, and the rings in the sky were there 9,000 years ago from that time. Okay, and also the same.
I mean, I believe that Noah was a real person, but perhaps there's another meaning here. Just to entertain it. So the 500 years of Noah, was he 500 or wasn't he older than that? I don't know.
He was 500 when
Yeah.
he had his children.
Okay, right.
When you have your children,
Okay.
the settlement may
Yeah.
be 500 years,
Right.
or not, or 500 lunar cycles.
So we have here with the Egypt Nile, I don't know if this connects to the Noah thing, but 10,800 minus 500 times 18 equals 1800 BC. Can you help me understand is that connecting to Noah and 500 years old? That's the 500 or?
No, it would be 9,000 years from the time the asteroid struck to all these events.
Right.
So I'm just saying the same thing over.
Right.
It's 500 times 18 is 9,000 years, and it's just to calibrate the dates there.
Okay, so Noah being 500 years old also calibrates with this 9,000 year roughly
except it's not,
period.
It's not 500 years, it's 500 lunar cycles.
500 lunar cycles.
Yeah.
500 times 18
Yeah.
equals 1800 BC.
And
And 1800 BC is when the Egypt Nile Delta settlement supposedly is developing.
Yeah, I don't know how the biblical history would be, but they were moving in there and they were getting booted out and whatever.
Right. And then we touched on Plato in the Timaeus
Yeah.
Critias, 360 BC, or 428 to 347 BC. Citizens of 9,000 years ago. There were 100 Nereids riding on dolphins.
He's referring to the palace in Knossos. Those
fresco there.
Yeah. He's referring to the fresco in there.
Okay, and is there is that also relating to these lunar cycles?
No, the dolphins are just pictures on the wall, and
right.
It could be it can only be that Crete what he's referring to.
Okay.
It's maybe jumbled up, but the only thing clear about the whole thing it's 9,000 years from 1,000 years before when he was. And
interesting.
And there was all these circles.
And then we have some things here. The New Testament Revelation chapter 13, verse 18. His number is 666. And New Testament Revelation, chapter 8, verse 1. I saw a star that had fallen from the sky to the earth. It was given the key to...
That's the comet again.
Okay.
And 666 is 18.
Oh, that's interesting. Say that. So how do you get the 18 from the 6? Oh, right.
6,
yeah,
12,
right. Yeah, of course. I missed.
The same number
right.
as at
3 times 6 is 18. Okay.
Same as at Lascaux.
So there's also potentially a New Testament
reference to the
to
story
to these lunar cycles since the comet hitting. Okay.
Yeah. And that's about Babylon, and they had it all documented on their clay tablets, all the lunar cycles and that.
Okay, interesting. So Babylon was also documenting this. Interesting.
Yeah, they're considered to be the people the astronomers who first discovered it, but it's not very likely they first discovered it, but they did it systematically. Right.
And then moving up in history to the Middle Ages, 1265 to 1300, 1321, we have Dante Alighieri, who writes Inferno between 1308 to 1320, which is like a long poem, I guess, which describes a
the Divine Comedy. That's the world's most famous book.
Right.
Anyway,
he goes into hell, or he goes through the different levels of hell. And 1320, is that when he finishes the book, or the ninth?
I think it's when he finishes. The ninth circle.
The ninth circle of hell is a frozen lake. Satan has bat-like wings.
Yeah. Okay, so that sort of refers to the younger Dryas, but...
Interesting.
Anyway, this is in the woodcut by...
we're going to get to the melancholy. Yeah, we're coming up to that right now, so we may as well turn to the
But
the
notice that he refers to circles.
Right. You mean in Dante Alighieri's?
Yeah.
You're right. That is interesting. He's going through circles into hell.
Yeah.
In his writing, and then there's also the circles of Atlantis.
Yeah.
And then there's the circles of Saturn, and then there's the circles that you were saying might have been around the Earth after a comet impact.
Yeah. Rings. We call them rings around planets.
Rings. Is there a circular thing about the lunar cycle too, or that's just
no,
mathematical?
Goes around.
That's just an abstraction. Okay, so then you're bringing up the interesting stuff about Albrecht Dürer. He did different woodcuts. I mean, he's a very fascinating artist. I haven't really looked at him too much in depth, but I've seen some of his work. It's very detailed, and so the one that you brought up to us was called Melancholia.
Yeah.
And so do you want to give us a brief description? What do we see here?
So you see the comet smashing in there. So it's the same old story.
Right.
And you see that ring.
You do see a ring around some. Well, we don't know if that's a comet, but I guess it could be a comet. Some source of light there.
He spent a lot of time chiseling into the copper to make that comet.
Right.
And the bat is supposed to be from the other one.
I don't know. There'd be a lot of symbolism. There's a lot of symbolism in the drawing.
Yeah,
like,
they're probably reading Atlantis as well, but that's from Dante, and he says it's frozen, just like.
What's from Dante? This is Albrecht Dürer. But the ninth circle of hell is a frozen lake. Oh, okay.
And the bat flapping its wings freezes everything, and it's Lucifer, and he's carrying this little.
Huh. You mean in Dante's? Because I haven't read Dante's Inferno. There's right. You mentioned there's a frozen lake, but I didn't. He's saying that a bat flapping its wings makes the lake frozen.
And all the people who have betrayed you, Judas and all that.
Right.
They're frozen into a lake, so you can
Right.
So their crime of betrayal,
Right.
breach of trust will always be visible.
Right. Okay.
So that's similar.
So
to
you're
the-
saying that Durer's Melancholia has some pictorial references to Dante's Inferno, specifically the frozen. So you
Yeah.
think this is a frozen lake then?
It could be.
Yeah.
And it has that same Lucifer,
Yeah.
and he's carrying the banner of Melancholia.
Right. Now I don't have a picture with me of the whole thing. I can probably get it later and put it up in the video. But
Yeah,
I remember
but,
there's some sort of angel who people say is a woman, but it looks more like a man to me. I don't know.
She's in the corner there.
She's in the corner and she's looking kind of pensive and like, I don't know if, like melancholia kind of meant slightly depressed back
Yeah.
then. I don't know.
It's a woodcut
Yeah.
with everything but the kitchen sink in it. It's
Yeah, there's all sorts of like
yeah.
occult, semi-occult symbols like.
Well, they are
weird
religious, and they would be. They might be at the stake if they're practicing any occult stuff. This is all strictly
Yeah.
from Dante, and it seems to go back to the Younger Dryas.
Right.
It's called, and there's the comet, and there's the ring around the planet.
Interesting. So that would be a reference to the Younger Dryas, the rings, supposedly the comet, mentioning Dante's Inferno. But why would Albrecht Dürer be, putting in these references to? Would he be doing this knowingly, or is he just using symbols that other people have used before?
They were very well read. They were
Yeah.
They were both have read these.
You're probably more well read, than we were today. Yeah.
They would have read part of Atlantis, okay, and they were putting all these things into their writings, their drawings, and that. It's
like why did he release this woodcut? Was it just for nobles to put up in their houses, or was he trying to teach someone? Or?
he's a paid artist.
Yeah.
He's doing art.
Right. So,
Yeah.
but then you mentioned there's this magic square in Melancholia. And it's divided into 16 smaller squares.
Yeah. Okay.
Each square has a number, and they add up to 34, no matter which way. Like each column adds up to 34.
Each
left,
column,
left, right, or up, down.
You have to
Yeah.
You have to use the numbers from 1 to 16. Each column adds up to the same number. Each row adds up to the same number. Each diagonal adds up to the same number.
Oh, diagonal too. Right.
Yeah. So it's just a clever sort of thing, but.
So why would he put? What's the significance of the magic square? In
It's
this
just
context?
something there, but a 6x6 magic square, all the numbers add up to 666.
Oh yeah. Oh right. Okay.
It's rather complicated.
Right, but this is only a 4x4.
This is sort of a supplement. I don't know if I put that in there, but it's
Okay.
it's a clever puzzle.
So it doesn't specifically relate to the.
No.
Okay.
No.
You were mentioning there's no zero in the magic square. I guess.
Okay,
wouldn't be any
sometimes they
point,
say
yeah.
that Plato made an error. He added zeros to his numbers, but he mentioned it maybe 10 times, and there was
Right.
no number 0 in the day. It was
Interesting.
written out, so it's not likely he made a mistake. So he's a
Interesting.
mathematician, and he uses those numbers, and he refers to rings. So you have to take it seriously, but it's, it was really strange where it comes from.
Right.
I just thought, you said you weren't going to come over yesterday. I was sitting around, and I thought, well, Saturn has rings. Why doesn't Earth?
Right.
Well,
Yeah.
because the same thing happened, and it's the only way to explain how it would be cold for 1,300 years.
Right.
It reflects away the light, okay? Because when you're facing the sun right there, the temperature is 100 degrees Celsius.
Yeah.
And then when that doesn't get to Earth to heat up the sky, the land, the Earth, and it's going to cool off.
Right. Well, that's pretty interesting. So we basically we have these references to a
Same story
Yeah.
for over 10,000 years now.
Right.
And the same calendar for 19,000 years.
Right. The calendar we use right now,
It's
essentially not much different from 19,000 years ago.
it's completely different. We use Babylonian numbers,
Oh
but
yeah.
that's the old system using 18-year periods. That's the old system as of maybe 7,000 years ago.
Interesting. So the old system used a lunar cycle as their calendar.
Yeah, 18 years, and you be a hunter-gatherer society, and you would use up the land here and move over here, and you would assign it to your sons and daughters, and then you would have a sort of civilization.
Like it gave, are you saying it gave them an idea of when climatic change would occur?
No, some natural cycles, like an apple tree, might take
Right.
18 years.
Right.
Okay, they would know things that we never dreamed of, that's all.
Right. But then they must have been advanced to some degree if they if they knew all this stuff. It's hard to make sense of supposedly this primitiveness and yet this great advancement.
Well,
like we've got cave paintings here, but
there's no
great advancement. Or like you were saying, they couldn't build pyramids.
you couldn't take a taxi to the beer store, right?
Well, yeah.
This is your job to survive, right?
Right.
So you got to know when the day is, and then
Yeah.
and apparently things would go on a 3-year cycle or a 7-year cycle.
Right.
They would have it planned out 18 years, and
Yeah, go ahead.
there's probably a civilization for 2,000 years. The same, we have a 2,000-year civilization.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from 0 to 2,000. That's where we are now.
We are at 2,000. Yeah.
But it developed over a long time, nearly 20,000 years. All this stuff.
What you mean, like all the stuff we've been talking about, like
Yeah, it's,
it fed into our current calendar. You said something changed 7,000 years ago, though. We changed the calendar or something.
Well, that's it. One's phased in and one's phased out because you have a 24-hour. It's having a clock is not so easy.
No, yeah. So
that sort of old astronomy is phased out, and you have the new things come in. All the pyramids and stuff, they were aligned with the sun and all that, and
yeah, the pyramids is an interesting.
Well, the main technology was the weapons made out of metal and agriculture. So
right. You mean around the time of the pyramids, or?
Yeah, starting around the time of the pyramids, they had weapons.
Well, they must have had weapons, right? If they had slaves to build the pyramids. So you wouldn't subscribe to some of the. There's some more far out theories that the pyramids could have been built using anti-gravity technology or levitation or something like that. I don't know.
No, they just got the whip.
Right. Okay. Fair enough.
And they got Moses and Ben-Hur.
Yeah, that would match up with what the way the Bible talks about Egypt. It was slavery, of course, and the Hebrews were enslaved there for a time, but we don't know how far back Egypt goes. But maybe it's not really.
I don't see if you had anti-gravity, why would they lose that technology? They would be running out my life right now.
Right, yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, but have you seen that there's like, there's all sorts of things that they can't explain around the Giza Plateau and around other sites in Egypt, ancient Egypt too. Like they found boreholes drilled through granite that look like they were machine drills, because it's like solid granite, it's extremely hard, and these things are like and like the laser precision. I'm not saying they were using laser guiding tool, but they like the very precise angles of a lot of these cuts. Doesn't seem to be something that a pre industrial revolution.
Well, a carpenter has a piece of thread. It's got chalk on it. He lifts it up, and it comes down and you have a straight line. So
Right.
they have ways of doing these things. You
Yeah,
see,
but on such a massive scale like that, it seems to. Yeah, I don't know.
You never heard of rings around the planet Earth until now.
Right. Well, you know.
So you don't know what's coming. They're going
I've
to.
heard of all sorts of things.
So they're going to call you up and make death threats now because you're talking about rings around.
Well,
the Earth.
there's some people are gonna say, oh, this is bullshit because the Earth is flat and there's nothing beyond the Earth. It's all flat.
No, it's not that. It's trouble is when you get rid of someone's theory, then they get mad at you.
There's a lot of competing theories. Yeah.
Okay.
Flat Earth is pretty big on the internet, though. Well, it's not
Maybe.
big, but it's.
Maybe
There's definitely some people that follow my channel that are into that.
Flat Earth and okay, maybe they're switching over to the reset, the Great Reset.
Yeah, that's right.
That make more sense. Doesn't it?
Well, anyways, this has been a pretty good interview, and I know that maybe in the future we can delve into the subject of ice ages more.
Yeah, well, we might be doing climate hoax or something.
Yeah, climate change. Is climate change a hoax? That was what you initially suggested to me. So
Yeah.
we can do that.
Okay, I don't want to get you kicked off your channel this time.
No, don't worry. There's nothing.
This is
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap this up?
No, I think we're good. It's just I was.
Yeah, it's a lot of interesting material.
It's rather bizarre. It's just stressing me out setting this. It's just. I had a lot of trouble making sense of this, but anyway.
Oh yeah, it was stressing you out, all this different. Well, yeah, I mean it's a million different rabbit
How
holes.
are we going to? Yeah.
There's too many rabbit holes.
That's
but,
what you
know.
said. That's right. All these rabbit holes.
Yeah.
But maybe it'll get straightened out one of these days. Okay, so.
All right, sounds good.
Fantastic interview, and we're gonna get out our telescopes and.
Yeah, I would get a telescope, but it's kind of expensive. But you know, then I could
They're
look at the moon.
$100.
Look at the moon myself. Some people say the moon is fake or it's not real or I don't know.
No, it's our 18-year cycle.
Right. It's you gotta have a real moon, otherwise none of this stuff would make sense. You know. You gotta,
Unless your clock is made out of green cheese.
That's right. All right. Well, thanks again, Paul. It's been a good and illuminating discussion.
All right.
All right. Hasta luego, amigos.